Something in the water taught me how to fall.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Something in the Water, and we are here with Sean Clark, Uncle Dave.
I'm Uncle Dave, and our guest this time is Steve Morgan. Hello, Steve.
Hello, how you doing, guys?
Now, will you identify the real British person in the room? Can you do it? Is it me, or is it Steve?
Or is it that gentleman over there?
Hello.
Does he look like an English guy?
Hello, Cupcake.
Just to confuse you.
Hello, Puppet.
Sean and I are not comfortable with speaking the Queen's English. Not as comfortable as this fellow right here, who's from Newcastle on Tyne.
Yes, Newcastle upon Tyne.
Tyne.
Yeah, that gives it away right there.
I'll just tell you something about the
sound the town name right.
Newcastle upon Tyne. It's famous for Newcastle brown ale, as we've just been talking about, but with the women, and also it's famous for artists such as Mark Knopfler.
Yeah.
Dire Straits, the Pet Shop Boys.
Yeah.
Then we've got the Animals, of course, all came from Newcastle upon Tyne. So we've got we're famous for Northern Soul up there. Northern Soul, which means that we can climb down from that crazy stuff, because to be a soul singer, you really have to have the horses under the bonnet, which is when I was talking about Tom Jones before. I used to learn I was born 1952, so late 50s. This is after Elvis had the RCA sessions. Around about 9, 10 years of age, I was listening to radio because we didn't have a television.
Okay.
We had gaslight where we lived. This was 7 years. I was born 7 years after the war, when World War II, when they demolished all of Tyneside. A bit like, you ever heard the thing, you've been sent to Coventry, was a World War II expression, because if you were sent to Coventry, that's a place
safe.
you didn't want to go, because the Germans were hammering it left, right, and centre. They demolished that city, and it was the same with the northeast of England for all the submarines, Vickers, Parsons, all those big companies where they made the tanks and the guns. So they hammered us. We've got 5 bridges over the Tyne. They would have, they wanted to attack the bridges and just demoralize the people. They never did. But having said that, so I grew up in a very poor situation, poverty-stricken kind of sorta, and after the war, the country was in tatters. So where we lived, I saw bombed out houses at the end of the street. Yeah. I remember that when I was just little, and then we didn't have electric until we moved in 1960 to a place called Cowgate in Newcastle upon Tyne, and that's where I saw for the first time in my own house electric switch. And I spent all day switching it on and off because I'd never known how. I mean, we could turn them on at school, school, but when I went back home at night time from school, we had gas lamps. And we used to have a big bath in the middle of the floor, and everybody, my mum used to have to boil water on the gas stove and pour it. And I used to think, my mum's so good, she does all that for us. But, there was me, my sister, Margaret, my mum and my dad. So 4 of us sharing this bath water, It was tough, mate. But it teaches you things, Sure. Especially when I started to go into music, listening to the American things on radio, as I say, about 1960. Starting to listen to the American things on radio, Jerry Lee Lewis, Little Richard, B.B. King, Fats Domino, the soul, the blues, the rock, learning the different styles of music, how to sing. They were my singing teachers, Tom Jones, Elvis Presley, all those people, because we couldn't afford singing lessons, but I knew it was something that I was really interested in, right? And the main thing was that I remember joining the local church for one reason only. There was a girl at school who wouldn't look at me. Guys like us just don't ever look in. So I knew she was in the choir, the local church choir. So I joined the church choir thinking, if she goes to the church choir, maybe I can get close enough to her, you know? Well, that idea didn't work out because she still didn't look at me, mate. But the one thing that I did learn was A, never get your hopes too high about the wrong bird, the lady, right? Because they let you down. And secondarily, I learned a lot about how to control your voice.
Okay.
It was kind of like concentrated musical lessons for someone from the ghetto. Now someone was teaching me, you know. We had a piano player there, organ player, and, they teach us harmony, how to control your breath, how to hold your breath, how to hold the notes, how to harmonize.
Yeah.
Less is more, da-da-da, all that great stuff.
Yeah.
So when I started, then we moved on to when we got our first television and we had electricity in that house I was telling you about, switching lights on and off, and then started to watch TV instead of listen to it on the radio. So sound and vision, do you know what I mean? And it was wonderful. And watching all the American shows, I remember the televisions used to have little lines. I think it's something to do with the frequency of the lines, isn't it? 80 per second or something. But I remember it was all flickery.
Yeah.
But I thought, great. And that little dot at the end when you turned it off, I used to watch and say, where's that go?
Yeah.
Where'd that go? That little dot.
It's gone.
He's gone. That's how simple I was. You know, I was really like, well, a bit simple, I guess, because how many kids look at a little white dot? But in those days, you think, where does it go?
Okay.
Why does it do that? I didn't know anything about a cathode ray
Right.
tube at that point, you know, and that it was
Broadcast.
the valve burning down, you know, dissipating. But so then I started listening, and then I got my first job when I left school. Well, I started singing in competitions for money because I thought I want to sing. The first year, I was burned a lot in these contests. We're singing for money here, right? And I thought, oh, it's easy peasy. And I was singing just things that I thought were good, you know, songs of the day. I think one of them was called, believe it or not, was called Dick-a-Dum-Dum by Des O'Connor. Well, I mean, the title says it all. This was the time of the swinging 60s where there was girls walking around in micro miniskirts, you know, dick-a-dum-dum, dick-a-dum-dum, a dick-a-dum-dum, dick-a-dum-dum. I mean, weird lyrics, and Des O'Connor was a comedian, so it was and that's not music contest fodder. It's not material.
What year would that have been? The music
that would have been
contest?
about Des O'Connor. You can look it up. It's probably around about 1963, maybe. I know when this
Pre-Beatles?
60s.
Pre-Beatles.
Possibly.
Well, they were on the march at that point in time. I think 63 was their big breakout year.
It would be about 1964, 1965.
Yeah.
Right? Because by then I would be about 10, 12, 13.
Yeah, they captured...
This was just when I left school. After school, I would go to competitions.
Okay.
And that meant traveling on a bus, worse still, coming back on a bus late at night full of drunken Geordies, which is like the local denizens of the Northeast, you know. And you don't want to, 13, 14-year-old kid going on a bus like that.
It'd be an eye-opener.
It was an eye-opener. Yeah, you get used to a lot of things, the swearing, the cussing and all that stuff. But it's a baptism of fire. After about a year, I then started to take it seriously, thinking, I'm not winning nothing. A, because my voice hadn't broke, but it was beginning to break. And then I started to get serious and thinking, I need to concentrate to keep them in the room the best way I can possibly focus them on what I'm doing is to whisper. Less is more. like my choir teacher had told me.
Ah.
Less is more. You don't have to shout. And then once you get them quiet, I did a song. There was a song called Exodus, and that song probably won me more money than anything else. It basically went. I won't sing it because of copyright issues. We're not allowed to do that on this, are we? Copyright lyrics.
Possible.
Nah,
Is it the movie?
Well,
Theme from the movie,
Theme
Exodus?
from the movie,
Okay.
yeah, and I don't want to sing it because it might be copyright for you guys. So,
Dun, dun.
yes, that's the one. Anyway, so that one, and I do it twice through. Whisper halfway through the first time, the second part of the first time, get into a slow bolero. So then, by then, I was starting to arrange and then bring it in the second time through on a slow rock, then into a fast bolero to take it out with a very long note at the end lasting about 25 seconds. And that song was winning me all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's when it became serious, and I thought I can make money from this. I remember the first time I won something of good proportion. I went home and my mum said, "Did you steal that? Where have you got that from?" And I said, I went to a club and I've sang. She said, "You didn't win that. Have you stole it?" And she nearly cracked me one. And I said, "Mum," and she actually called the next day the social club where I had been. And they said, "Oh no, your son won the money." And that's when they believed me. And that money
alone.
was, I think I won, I think it was £20. But in those days, that was about almost as much as my dad was making in a week.
Right.
And he worked on the railway. You know, so then it started to get serious. And I started to get better and better because I was with my training from the choir and a good lung capacity. So then I started to take it more seriously. And I did the competitions for about, I guess about 6 years, 7 years. And then I did my first summer season around about 21, right? That's when, and I went to what you call a mini Disney World. It's like a holiday camps over in England.
okay.
Butlins, Pontons, Warners, where they offer cheap accommodation, everything all in, the entertainment, the bingo, the whole kit and caboodle. But they teach you things like how to compare competitions, MC, disc jockey, stage management, stage lighting, how to dress a stage,
Wow.
how to, and there's nothing like it now, how to organize competitions, sports, etc. So entertainment's cruise director, you know, all that later from what I learned there. And secondarily, learned how to get great rapport from your audiences by singing live in front of sometimes 50 people in the small bars to like 3,000 people in the main rooms. 3,000 people. And okay, so they would say, "Oh, well, he's a blue coat, red coat."
What's that?
A blue coat and a red coat. It's a bit like, that's like the Civil War to you guys. No, but blue coat was
Working class? No, or
no,
opposite?
blue coat. After the World War II, a guy called Billy Butlin, and this is well known, so I'm not breaking any
Butlin's
copyright.
holiday camp.
Butlin's holiday camps, and he bought, I think his first one was Filey from the Ministry of Defence after the war. And basically they were like camps, like wooden huts, you know, which they billeted the soldiers
Okay.
with big dining halls and recreation things. So everything was there.
Pretty smart.
But he thought, wait a minute, it's all there. I just need to paint them up a little bit, put some great sound systems in, get some cabaret coming in, give the people, you know, a family holiday, all in, very cheap. And they can make money on the bar, you know, and on the bingo and all that stuff. So it was a fantastic thing. And then people copied, and that's where Pontons came in, right? I worked for Pontons, I worked for Butlins, I worked for Warners. I was multicolored by the time I finished, you know what I mean? But they all did the same thing.
So the different camps had blue coats or red coats.
Blue coats, red coats, green coats, yellow coats. Depended. I mean, Warners were yellow coats. Pontons were blue coats, Butlins were red coats, and Haven, I think, I can't remember. But I wore all those coats.
Now, when you say you were working at these holiday camps, were you working in a musical capacity, or were you doing all the jobs?
Did everything.
Yeah.
Everything, including sweeping the stage.
Okay.
Which was great.
Did you get to sing any, though?
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole point of going there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was even at Brighton, which was a hotel. The hotels were best because you didn't have so far to walk. You know, everything was in the hotel, and you had a more controlled audience, where you might have in the big camps like Filey, 5,000-6,000 people maybe. In the hotels, you might have 400. Much more controlled, more nightclub orientated, sing songs and all this stuff. But yes, I mean, it was all the same thing. It was a great training ground. Later, I learned, I got my theatre skills certificate from Northumbria University in sound and lighting, rigging, safety, different what you call instruments like that's a bar light there, yeah. These are spotlights, but they have park hands, Fresnels, the different kinds of instruments, and controlling them from the board, for the light and the sound. So wonderful preparation, sure. Then I went on to cruise ships, did some cruise ships around the world, did touring, did session singing work, cabaret. Was in bands, groups, traveled to Europe, did some disc jockey stuff in Abu Dhabi. Don't want to do that again. Especially not now. I used to watch from Abu Dhabi, and over the straits, I thought it was Iran, but it must have been Yemen from what I've just learned. And I didn't realize, but I thought, and I remember it was the 88th Airborne would come in, the Americans. Every time they'd come in, and I don't think I'm breaking copyright in this, every time they'd come in, I'd put on Born in the USA. And it really used to... That's all right.
You say that?
You say that.
What's another... can I? Well, it really used to piss the Arabs off. Yeah. Because I put
Abu Dhabi is in Saudi Arabia.
Well, it's part of the Emirates. Yeah. And it's all, as one guy said to me, "Oh, you got to watch over there." I once nearly got arrested because I was very interested in photography, and I nearly got arrested. I had a 35mm camera. I mean, a proper 35mm with film in it. Do you know what I mean? And I was walking down the street. Away from the hotel, where was it? I think I had got a taxi and I was walking down. I got out a taxi and I took a shot of this flower, but I got on the deck so the flower was like big with the lens, and and the sun was against it. So I thought that makes a nice halo around the flower. It's only like a little daisy, right? Next thing I know, this big guy comes over and says to me, he says, you, camera. And I said, "You're not getting my camera, mate. What for?" This is exactly what I said to him. I said, "What are you talking about, camera?" And he said, radio. And I said, "I thought it was like the BBC. I thought it was a radio station." And it wasn't. It was a military station.
Oh.
They thought I was taking photographs of that facility.
Yeah.
Well, how the hell did I know?
Right.
And I would not give them my camera. I said, "You're not getting that camera." And they took me inside and they locked me up.
Oh, boy.
Inside this little thing. Oh, those spiders in there. Cockroach biggins, and they didn't give me any water.
God knows.
And for hours they kept me in there until the guy from the Safari Disco, which is where I worked, he came down and he got me out. He said, "Don't do this again. Don't do this again." I said, "What?" I said it was taken. And he said, "They need to take your camera." I said, "They're not getting my camera." I said, I said,
film?
I said, they can have the film.
Okay.
There's nothing on it, you know. I said, but they're not getting my camera. Not having it. And so I gave them the film. What I should have done was, like photojournalists done, I should have like got another roll of film and given them a dodgy one. Get the real one.
Yeah. Have
But,
that
you know,
fake film in you.
yeah. But at least I got away, you know. And
Yeah.
I didn't point anything after that. And he said, Muhabarat,
Which means?
which means the state police. He said, this is not a free country. He said, they can take you into the desert.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I remember reading in a local paper. I was only there a few weeks for disc jockey. I remember reading a local paper. A lady, her daughter, and the husband had broken down outside of Abu Dhabi. And the desert, ironically, is freezing cold at night time and blazing hot during the day because the sand is something to do with the insulation, right? So the sand makes great insulator. So they broke down, and these two guys came up, these Arab guys, and said, what did they do now? They took him into town, then they came back, and they took the lady and the daughter into the desert, and they must have killed them.
Oh,
They weren't seen again. And that's a true story, as far as I can recollect.
wow.
And that was from 19...
Where were they from? Tourists? Were they
I
tourists?
don't know if they lived there local. You mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
That's a-
you have to watch what you do and say
Yeah.
over there, you know, because the desert just... It's a bit like what they say in Vegas, you know, the holes
Yeah.
outside of Vegas. So, yeah, it was a sad story, though.
Wow. Abu Dhabi almost sounds like Ooby Dooby. Like
Yes,
that
yes.
old, what's his name? Roy Orbison song. Ooby Dooby.
Oop, doopy.
Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Sounds like a rock and roll song. Abu Dhabi. So you got some original music, eh?
Yes, of course.
We like originals around here
Absolutely.
for a lot of reasons.
Are we live now? Are we talking?
Yes, we are live. Say hello to the good people in Baxley.
Hello, Baxley. Here I am, flying the flag for you. So, right, this particular song here, as I say, I normally set my recorder away if I get a couple of chords together, because then I know something's going to happen, but I don't know what because the song's not written. Now, a lot of people would frown upon it and say, well, that's no way to write a song. It works for me if at the end of 3 minutes, you either got something or you don't, and you either put it away to one side or it's totally rubbish.
Now, here's the thing behind that, having that recorder on. You might lay something down that is good,
Yes?
and by the time you fumble with some other options and all, you realize the best one was the first one.
First one, yeah.
And if you don't have the recorder on, you've forgotten what you did on that first pass.
Well, yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll set the recorder away. I know one thing, I become totally involved in it. The world stops. And all I'm thinking about is, how the hell do I get out of this? So I have to work on the key, the vocal. You don't know where the melody is. You don't know where the next note is. All you know is you got to keep the tempo, keep that vocal under control, keep your dynamics of your guitar under control, try and make some sense of it, and put the words and the rhyming together so everything at the finish of the song should fall into place. And you try rhyming songs on the hoof. It's not, I don't know how it happens, but it does a lot of the time.
Well, that's pretty impressive. If you're looking at if that's your method.
Yes.
If you like to ride on the fly and do it all at one time,
Well, see, the thing
I
is...
can't do that.
The thing
I have
is,
to sit down and hammer it out.
Yes.
And I'm not paying attention to dynamics.
I've done
and
that
all
one
that stuff.
time. I just kept, but it was nothing that repeated. There was no chorus. It was just like it was a short little song. But
Yeah.
It's amazing. If when it happens, it's great.
Then maybe somebody like yourself would come along and say, okay, it ain't that great, but I can work with those lyrics. Somebody like yourself or a collaborator.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or someone could say, you need a good bass line there, or change that that stanza here. Or that
all of
chord
that
there.
can be
I'm,
talked about.
You know,
after
I'm
the
basically
fact,
a four-chord wonder. Do you know what I mean? I'm not fantastic at musical theory. All I do is enjoy my music and whatever comes out, the flow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm not really technical in that respect, but I kind of get there.
Yeah, well, same here.
that's
I'm
the
not
same
technical
with
either.
me.
Yeah.
I just go with what feels good or what comes out.
With this particular song here, being a Brit, I don't know a lot about your Civil War. I know that it was between the North and the South. I won't mention certain things why.
Yeah, well,
But,
there's a lot of arguments on that,
yes.
both sides.
But all I know is a lot of good men died.
Yeah.
No war is any good. Nobody wins at the end of the day.
My great-great-granddaddy fought in that war. Yeah.
Did he really?
Peter Griffin was his name, and he
Okay.
was
Well,
was
I mean,
just a little simple old farmer down here, or he grew up on Cowhouse Island, which is located in the northeast corner of the Okefenokee Swamp. That's where his stomping grounds was.
right, so he was local.
He was a swamper, I guess you could call him.
He stood up for what he believed in.
Yeah, yeah. And back then
As
they
indeed
were.
did the boys from the North.
Yeah.
A lot of it was, as I understand it, was for politics and land
Mm-hmm. A
grabbing
lot of
and all this
politics
stuff.
was in there. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, all I know is that this song came about, and I don't know to this day why it came out. I don't know really why it went towards the American Civil War. That was the last thing on my mind as a Brit. I don't know why it came out like that.
The mystery and the beauty of songwriting.
I think it would make a great theme song to a movie about the American Civil War. I think it's got a lot of mystery involved in it. I think it's got a lot of factual stuff going on there, which I didn't realize until I had finished the song. And I did the song in about 3 minutes 12, 3 minutes 30.
What's the name of it?
It's called Where the Rivers Run Red.
All right.
And I'll play it for you, and there's a mystery to it, and you might be able to solve, folks, the mystery of this song, Where the Rivers Run Red. Oh, fine maiden, won't you look at me? Why do you turn the other way? I've come back just to look around my childhood days. I'm going back to that Civil War, fighting old Johnny Reb. Don't I'll come back knocking at your door, oh, when I can. Where the blood runs red, that's where I'm going. Where the blood runs red. Oh, fair maiden, won't you look at me like you used to before I went away? I can see that strange look in your eye. It's me underneath all this gray. It's me underneath all this gray. Oh, fair maiden, won't you look at me? Oh, fair maiden, won't you smile? Oh, fair maiden, won't won't you take my hand, let me hold you for a while. Let me hold you for a while. I can hear that bugle calling me. Soon I'll be going back to take my place on that Dixie line. There'll be no holding back. There'll be no holding back. Before I go, won't you hold me? Before I go, won't you kiss me? 'Cause I'm going back where the river runs red. I'm going back where the rivers run red. Where the rivers run red. Where the rivers run red.
Yeah.
Nice job.
That's
Yes,
good.
sir. So the mystery. Mm-hmm. You want to?
The clue was in one of the
Good.
lines there.
I think she was maybe running around on him while he was off at war.
No, you're kind of close, but not. The clue was in "It's me underneath all this gray."
Gray. Yeah, that's what caught my
Now
ear.
he's
but
a Union soldier.
he was a Union soldier because he said
So
he was fighting
basically-
Johnny Reb.
The reason why
Did he
she's not
desert?
looking at him,
Did he desert?
no, he's dead.
Well, that was that was.
And he's came back to visit her, but she's not looking at him. And it's kind of, I don't know where the hell it came
Okay.
from,
Yeah.
but that's the way it came out. Why? I don't know, but that's the mystery to it.
So he's covered in gray. The reason for that is there's no color in death. Is that why he's covered in gray?
I
'Cause
don't
he's
know. I guess because I'm a fan of horror movies and gray seems to be the color that fits.
He went to, when he
but-
died. He went to black and white.
But because people would say, well, hold on, he's British, he's got it mixed up. You know, they were grey, the Confederates, and the guys were in blue, the North. But no, it means what it is. It's me underneath all this grey. And that's the clue, I think.
yeah.
And I didn't know at the time it was going to come out like that. That came out 3 minutes 30 seconds. So what it is what it is. So I did copyright it kind of like a few days afterwards because I thought this one's kind of urgent. Normally you can copyright like in groups,
Yeah.
10 songs
That's what I tried
for
to,
about $85,
strive
folks.
to do. Yeah.
The
That
express way.
85 goes a lot longer if you got about 25 songs to.
Well, yeah,
lump up
I
under
think
one thing.
they're doing 10 songs now for
Is the limit?
85.
That's the
Yeah,
limit? Okay.
and it's what you call on an album. So the first song is the title. So if it's called like Joe Bloggs Esquire, that's the name of the
Yeah.
album of unpublished works. But the rest follow through in sequence. Different titles.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was where the rivers run.
good.
That's
red.
great.
Yeah.
And it does have a Roy Orbison flair to it.
I think maybe that's because I used to do a lot of, in England, I used to do a lot of clubs. So over there, you're going to do 2 hours tops with a half hour in between for the bingo, because the bar's the start of the show.
Right.
Doesn't matter if you're Elton John, it's what they make from it. That's going to be a profit. I believe he does it for $1 million, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But so they're very, very tough audiences up in the northeast of England, and as I say, I used to do competitions when I was younger, very early, 13, 14 years of age, to make money. And it wasn't a gag, it was,
Yeah.
I think I can make money to help my parents.
Right.
That's what it was for. Because my dad, I think, was making about £30, British pounds a week, which was not a lot then. And I was going out eventually earning 20, 30 pounds in one night. Then you'd go back to the finals and, you could win 60, $100 first prize. Well, if you get like quite a few of them, it's cash coming in. It's all experience. But that's the reason why I had to do all that. It was great training, and you learn how to copy other singers. I mentioned before that in the early days I would listen to Little Richard, Elvis, Tom Jones, anybody that took my fancy. I was a copycat. I had to copy because I wanted to try and be as close as possible on stage. I'd heard so many people who was nothing like them. Well, okay, you can have a unique stamp on what you're doing on stage. But if you veer too far away from that original classic #1 hit that got to the top of the charts, people ain't going to like it unless you're something like really special, which I wasn't. So I had to kind of like learn how to copy, the big stars of the day, like the Tom Joneses, the Elvis Presley, Little Richards. Nobody can copy these guys perfect. You just wanted enough to make sure that your audience was enjoying
the songs
it,
dancing,
dancing, or when they're drinking their beer, They wanted to listen to something that was, I know this one. It's not me on the stage they're interested in. It's the song, because the song's the start of the show, as far as being on stage is concerned. Yes, so.
Cool. You got another one?
Yes. Now, don't laugh, because this one, where's the cat? Because
I can't help but laugh.
well, no, because well, see, I got a few cats, right, and I got one called Rocky.
Rocky.
And Rocky, I first saw Rocky when I'm into like animal rescue, and I was trying to feed a dog to keep him going until we could get him up north to New York, where they got a bigger footprint and they can spread them out to good homes, fosters and stuff. And I'm a great one for any animal in pain or suffering. I won't get into too many details on here, but so Rocky was in this particular place where this other dog was not at that particular point, and all I saw was a little white paw sticking out of this double wide trailer, which had been left abandoned. And I had heard a little meow, meow, meow. And I thought, it's a cat around here somewhere. I'm telling for the reason. So I looked at him and I thought, I cannot leave him here. Because, where that place was, it's full of snakes. And I thought, So I did my best. I saw his little paw and I said, come on in, baby. And, doing all the cat sounds I knew to get him close. And he followed me, and I put him in the car. And he was, to this day, he's one of my favorites. And he had been shot with pellets at some point because I took him to the vet. And so he's kind of crippled. He's three-legged. But what a great cat. He would make the Americans proud. And he's called Rocky. Why I call him Rocky, I don't know. He just looked like a Rocky. Anyway, one day I was looking at Rocky, and I was going, Rocky, 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 something like that. And then all of a sudden I went, Rocky was my baby. Rocky was my boy. And I thought, ooh, wait a minute, get the recorder. Right? So Rocky, I said, Rocky, do a bunk, because now we get serious, and it came out like this.
All right.
Rocky was my baby. Rocky was my boy. Rocky came and shook the world right down. Rocky was my hero. Rocky was my life. Rocky wouldn't hurt a single fly. Then one day a gang rode into town, took their anger out on him. Poor old Rocky didn't stand a chance. What they did to him, He was kind and he was loving, wouldn't hurt a single fly. They took his life in anger. Just ask them why. Why? Rocky's gone away now. I still remember him. I think of all the good times, all the things we did. He was my best friend, everything I ever knew. I learned from that gentle giant, Rocky. Rocky. Goodbye, Rocky. My friend.
Hey,
that's good.
now Rocky's not dead. The real Rocky.
No, he's still with
God,
us.
thank goodness. But that's the way you can go in a song. But I love the way you treated that as a Western. That's kind of had that Western vibe to it with the gang rolled into town, you know.
Well, I think that came from, I guess it was from a Boy George song or something like that. I can't remember what it was again. I can't. I'm saying can't instead of can't. But maybe that's the thing, what you just said. I'm picking up the Americanizations.
How long you been here?
I've been here since 2004.
Okay,
So
well,
I'm
that's
picking
20
stuff up.
years, yeah.
And I mean, I know what a bayou is now.
Yeah.
You know, turnpike, going down at it. Copyright. But the Cretan stuff. And now I know. I'm living like the Apache ways, kind of, sort of. And,
Cheat yet?
And so what I'm trying to do now is to make sense of it all. And I think in this song you just mentioned, it's kind of country. When the song came together in those first couple of beats with Rocky was my baby, just a bit of a laugh.
Yeah.
Then a song comes out. And that came out like that on the recorder. It's up there on YouTube somewhere. It's got effects on there, by the way, not that particular version, but...
Well, let's talk some more about, let's see. So you've been in Baxley for 20 years. What brought you to America in the first place?
Ooh,
From Newport upon Tyne.
Newcastle upon Tyne.
Newcastle upon Tyne.
Well, I better watch what I say here because she'll whack me. It was my wife.
Okay.
And she always wanted to go to England. So she Googled England on the internet.
This was before you were married.
Yes.
So she Googled England and came over?
Your future wife.
And you met her in England?
No, I didn't meet her in England.
Okay.
I was actually studying lighting and sound and in England, and I was also studying Cisco communications because I wanted to kind of nail the bad guys. So I wanted to know about algorithms and the different ways you can tap to make sure you can trace the bad boys back. And she sent me an email, and I said to the guys in the class, "Okay, who's having a joke? Who?" I won't say her name. I'll say who's Judy, right? I'm not going to say her name. I don't want to involve her on this. I say, who's Judy? It's not a real name, but, And I said, who's Judy? He said, what do you mean, who's Judy? And I said, who's pinging me? Pinging means, you're going to ping back and stuff like this. And, of course, we were all on the intranet. So I said, well, it's just a case of I'll find you whoever you are because I'll be able to lock into you. And they knew that, and this was not me. And then I realized that I was pinging it, and I thought, it is come from the States. So then I thought, well, is it a scam or what? But I thought, I'll play them at their own game. So I did answer her back, and she turned out to be genuine.
What was her email saying in the beginning?
She said, I hope you don't mind me contacting your words to this effect, not verbatim.
Yeah.
But I found your photograph on the internet, and I wanted to get in touch with someone from England to ask what it's like there. I've always wanted to go to England and all that stuff. So
naturally, my first response to something like that would be scam.
well, that's why I did some pings and stuff, but
Okay.
it kind of checked out. And then over the next, I don't want to get into too much detail because it's not fair on her, but basically we got to know each other over quite a few months. And then that's how I came eventually to come over here. And I always say if that website hadn't been beeping up there, my website, but it is what it is. So we did live in Nashville for a while when we came here, by the way. So I did taste the Ville.
Yeah.
You mentioned you'd been there.
We've been there quite a few times. Yeah.
And I really wish I had have thought more about agreeing to come. I mean, because Baxley's great, but at the end of the day, all I really knew how to do was sing.
Yeah.
For 40 odd years.
Yeah.
As a pro, sessions.
Yeah,
demos.
Nashville is a good place to do all that.
Yes, it is, and it's very tough to break in. So you have to run with the crowd, and you cannot just leave. And I really wish I had not agreed to do that. But then again, you have to stand by your wife. It was honor.
Yeah.
I said, well, Nashville can wait, and that's my mistake. I made the mistake of coming back, but I would do it again because I really, love her, and I wanted to support her. She came back, look after her. I don't want to get into too much detail, but anyway, that's
that's great.
That's
a great love story.
No, I like Baxley, but there ain't a lot to do around there on sessions, as a singer.
They might have a VFW or a American Legion or something.
And I mean, it's a nice place, but I do yearn for the big city. That's my jungle,
A little more of a nightlife.
The big city, where you've got everything within reach. I know it's dangerous in the big cities, but hey, it's dangerous in the little cities, mate.
Oh, yeah.
Nowadays, you got to watch yourself anywhere you go.
Yes, you do. This is why I'm pleased I came from the ghetto. In the early days, we had nothing. I tell you about the bath and the gaslight and stuff like this. My dad working on a railway, three shifts. So it all helps because you grow up with thieves. I never got in trouble, but I went to school with thieves, and I'll bet you any money right now, most of those guys who I went to school with, probably some of them are still in prison or going in and out of prison because they're habitual offenders. Yeah. Probably on some sort of kick where they've got some sort of habit or drinking. Mm-hmm. A lot of them, they from those environments, they have bad fathers, who hurt them. In the early days, or make them feel worthless, or or drunken fathers and things like that. So, I managed to escape the poverty trap. I went down the artistic route. I have actually appeared on TV and in film.
There you have it, folks. All right. I kind of knew that was there somewhere.
yes, but. And I mean, it was very good.
Yeah, heck yeah.
But no, mainly extra work, Yeah. And I think I really do. I made the mistake of putting music before acting because there's more work as an actor, even as an extra, always work for extras or in theatre, in movies or on TV. They always want a background stuff.
You mentioned going to college for lighting and sound
Yes.
and all that. Did you study acting any time in your life?
Well, I mentioned that I could emulate people like Orbison. Not emulate. Nobody emulates Orbison or Elvis Presley.
Can you do us any Shakespeare?
And
Can you do us a Shakespeare line?
Shakespeare. To be or not to be? That is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or better to lead the dogs behind.
There you go. Richard Burton can kiss. No.
Well, Richard Burton once said, I loved Richard very much indeed because I loved him from, I ain't gay. I love Richard as an actor. And I miss people like Elvis and Richard because they were personality giants.
Yeah.
And if you look at Richard Burton, I remember one interview he said on TV. He said, and he came from Wales.
Okay.
He was schooled by a very, very English teacher. So the Richard you often saw on screen was highly trained by the time he hit the movies. Yeah. But he always had that Welsh edge to his accent. See? And he once said, he once said to me, not to me, he once said on an interview, he said, when you wake up in the morning and you want a drink, you are in big trouble. That's exactly what he said. And that's true.
And the way he said it,
well, no, because
kind of stirred your heart.
Absolutely, because if you're that far down the line and you wake up and that drink takes over everything else that takes your life, you gotta have it. Just like I guess drugs, And it was a shame the way he went. But I never saw him like Where Eagles Dare. Great movie. Where Eagles Dare. You know this one?
Yeah.
Where he said, Danny boy calling broadsword, Danny boy calling broadsword. That Welsh accent with Clint Eastwood, I believe, yeah? Mm-hmm. And I can see all these movies in my head, by the way, in full colour and stereo. I'm just weird. But I love my movies. But the point is, you never saw him drunk on film.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing about it. He was desperately, Elizabeth Taylor said eventually she had to let him go,
He was that
too much of a handful.
He was going down the tubes, man. Very, I don't know if he was really violent to her, but that's how much it gets you. And I'm going off beam here, but but you mentioned, did I do any acting? Well, of course, I messed around there with the Shakespeare and stuff. Yeah. But I learned from life. I can normally emulate an accent. Give me some time, and I can pick it up. Like, hello, mate. How you doing? That's a Londoner, as opposed to the Welsh. You see, Welsh have got kind of like a musical accent.
Liverpool.
Well, Liverpool's a bit different. Like it's like that. Whereas, if there's any Liverpudlians watching, I do apologise. Liverpool's like that, like Paul McCartney and all this stuff,
That's all I know about Liverpool. Four guys.
George Harrison from the Beatles once said in his Liverpool accent, he said, "You can never have too many mandolins." That's what he said to the guy when he opened the boot of his car. What do you call the boot here? The trunk. He said, "You can never have too many mandolins." And he opened the boot and he had like dozens of these mandolins.
George loved to play the mandolins.
He did. He had different styles. I didn't know you could get them in different shapes and sizes, but evidently you can. Well, sorry, but I digress.
Well, we sure appreciate you being here. It's been educational and
Do you
a lot
want one
of
of
fun.
my other songs?
No, I think that's going to serve enough. We've got 2 there, and I wanted to say this. Were it not for my son, Connor, the drummer for the Pine Box Dwellers and son of me, and manager of the Bacon County Library, which is about 30 minutes from Baxley.
Yes.
That's where this fella strolled into the Bacon County Library one day and met my son Connor,
Yes, I
and
did.
They had a long conversation. And
Yes.
Connor put Steve and I together,
Yes.
and here it all is. We'd like to thank our little buddy Connor Griffin for putting us in touch
Yes,
with
thank
one
you, Connor.
another.
I appreciate it very much. It's been
We
a
thank
wonderful
you
session.
so
Good to see
much,
you
Steve,
guys.
for being here, and I appreciate your sharing your talent with us too.
That's
And they
great.
can always go online to
Go to YouTube. What's your
YouTube. It's,
channel there? Music
well,
name?
my channel up on YouTube is Singerman USA, all one word. Singerman USA.
Singerman USA.
So no spaces, Singerman USA at Singerman USA 9263. I think that's it. But just look for Singerman.
Yeah. If you just go to YouTube and go to your search button up
And look for
there,
Steve
look
Morgan.
for Singerman Steve Morgan.
Yes.
You'll come up with some more of his good original songwriting, and he does some covers on
A
there
lot
as
of covers
well.
up there as well. Yeah, Elvis and rock and roll, blues, pop.
Heck yeah.
Yes, everything. Vince Gill, the whole lot, mate. I'm a little bit crazy in that respect, but this is
You can't
life.
go wrong betting on the good ones.
No.
That's right.
But I always
There's
said,
a lot of good ones out there.
I always said from an early age, hold your audience in the palm of your hand. Less is more. And secondarily, always try to do number 1 hits, or at least pretty close to the top 10.
Something that they know.
That will go right around the world. And whenever I performed on a cruise ship or in a production show, wherever I was in Spain, Italy, Miami at the ships, going down to the Bahamas and all that stuff, or anywhere in the state, anywhere, because they're classic number 1 hits or pretty close to, people know them, even if they can't speak English.
That's right.
I've had people come up saying, muchas gracias
Yeah,
por Elvis, the Elvis
How you
song,
say-
because
how
they
you
knew
say?
it was Elvis, or they knew it was Lady in Red or whatever, Christy Berg and all that stuff, because they're number 1 hits.
That's right.
So I'd say to anybody, if you're going to get an act together, make sure it's like global.
That's right. Well, here's speaking of global, here's a book that's been around the world, and it's written by me, and it's called Tales of the Week from Dog Hill to Tripoli
All right.
and back. When I was a young child, I lived in Tripoli for about a year and a half.
Tripoli, that's Egypt.
Tripoli,
isn't it?
Libya.
Yes.
Yeah. And so these are some of my recollections, and I'd like to say that this one comes from my many stories. It's a good one. Countless country music records from George Jones, Tammy Wynette, Lynn Anderson, and more than a few rock recordings, Bob Dylan, George Harrison, Ringo Starr, have featured the melodic stylings of a steel guitar impresario whose early work contributed to the success of a landmark 1976 rock and roll album. Well, if that ain't enough mystery for you. Rodis Franklin Drake was born on October 8th, 1932 in Augusta, Georgia, son of Nora Blevins and brother Johnny Drake, a Pentecostal preacher. His older siblings, Bill and Jack, the Drake brothers, sang in Atlanta area churches prior to Jack moving to Nashville, Tennessee, where he played upright bass in Ernest Tubbs' Texas Troubadours. By the age of 18, the youngest Drake was enamored with the sound of Jerry Bird's steel guitar on Hank Williams' soul-scorching ballad, I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry. Drake built and taught himself to play his own steel guitar until hearing Bud Isaac's pedal steel sound on Slowly, a 1953 hit for Webb Pierce. Adding pedals to his own creation, Drake became one of Atlanta's earliest pedal steel guitar players, forming a professional group, the Sons of the South. There they are in their white shirts and bolo ties, which also featured, the Sons of the South also featured the talents of Jerry Reed, Doug Kershaw, Roger Miller, Jack Green, and Joe South. All of those guys made it big at some point in time. His move to Nashville in 1959 prompted touring work with Don Gibson and Marty Robbins.
Yep.
Following a grueling 31-day grind on the road, Drake decided to make his primary income as a Music City session musician. His tasteful sound has been heard on hundreds of country records, including Tammy Wynette's Stand By Your Man, George Jones' He Stopped Loving Her Today, and Lynn Anderson's I Never Promised You a Rose Garden, written by his old Sons of South bandmate Joe South. Channeling the work of Alvino Ray, steel guitar electronic whiz, who used a throat microphone to modulate the sound of his instrument in 1939, Drake introduced the talking guitar sound on his big 64 hit, Forever, which went all the way to number 25 on Billboard's Hot 100. In 1966, Drake played on Elvis's gospel album, How Great Thou Art, and was also featured on the soundtracks of his entertaining yet clumsy B-movies, Double Trouble, Clam Bake, Speedway, Spin Out, and Easy Come, Easy Go. Elvis, what you doing making movies? When Bob Dylan made his way to Nashville in 1967 to record his 8th studio album, John Wesley Harding, Drake was called upon to contribute to the final 2 tracks, Down Along the Cove and I'll Be Your Baby Tonight.
Yeah, I covered that one.
2 more Nashville-based Dylan albums followed, Nashville Skyline and Self-Portrait, featuring Drake's beautifully sparse playing on Lay Lady Lay. Playing bass guitar and guitar on Nashville Skyline and Self-Portrait was Charlie Daniels, who conveniently slipped Drake's phone number to George Harrison. Following the breakup of the Beatles in 1970, Harrison invited Drake to London to play on his debut solo album, All Things Must Pass. Drake's lilting contribution to Behind That Locked Door is simply one of the most beautiful pedal steel guitar tracks ever recorded. While working on All Things Must Pass, Drake met Peter Frampton, who was so captivated with the steel guitarist's work with the talk box that Drake presented him with his talking music actuator as a gift. 6 years later, Frampton would have the best-selling album of '76, showcasing the talk box on 2 of his big hits, Show Me the Way and Do You Feel Like We Do. Mm-hmm. See, there's that's Drake up in the left-hand corner, George Harrison, Ringo, Billy Preston, I believe, and down there in the lower right-hand corner is young Peter Frampton.
Yeah.
He had dark hair?
Peter did? Yeah. Well, in that picture, he did.
Yeah, I thought he was blonde.
He might have had some blonde highlights by the time he hit 1976. As a favor, George Harrison persuaded former Beatles drummer Ringo Starr to venture to Nashville for the recording of his second album called Bukus of Blues, with Drake producing the album and playing on it. Continuing his session and production work with musical legends of the counterculture, Drake worked with Simon and Garfunkel on their sensational Bridge Over Troubled Water and Leon Russell on Hank Wilson's Back, Volumes 1 and 2, and Stop All That Jazz. Drake was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame's Walkway of Stars in 1970, the Steel Guitar Hall of Fame in 1987, and the Georgia Music Hall of Fame in 2010. After battling emphysema, Drake passed away at the age of 55 and was buried in Nashville's Spring Hill Cemetery. His headstone is inscribed with the words, "His courage, his smile, his talent, and his love warms our hearts." And also on his headstone was, "For Pete's sake." That's true. He served the Queens and King George of country music, Elvis the King himself, 2 Beatles, and the master of space and time, Leon Russell. He was a simple boy from Augusta, Georgia, and one of the greatest steel guitarists of all time, Pete Drake.
I didn't realize he was from Augusta.
Yeah, boy, he's one of ours.
So he did a lot of work, that guy.
He sure did. That's a young man right there, sowing his oats.
Do you have that video with him doing the talk box on the?
Yes, I do, but we can't play it on here.
Okay.
And they are quite,
Yeah.
they're quite,
But yeah.
are we off air now, are we?
No,
All right.
almost.
Okay.
Folks, we thank y'all for listening in, though, and we appreciate you being here with us every time. We hope you're there every time. If you are and you like what you see and hear, please be sure to subscribe and like, and maybe send us a message at somethinginthewaterpodcast@gmail.com. We are monetized now. This is a great through. Thanks to y'all. We appreciate that. We'd like to say a hefty go Will Mosley.
Go Will Mosley.
He's out there in the finals in
American Idol.
American Idol. Go, man, go. We appreciate you, buddy, and we appreciate you being on our Something Water podcast here. And remember us when you get on up there rubbing shoulders with Jelly Bean. And
The jelly roll.
Jelly roll. Well, you can see that I'm on top of it. I ain't never seen an episode in my life of American Idol. Yes, I have, too. I saw the episode where you cleared the hurdle to the Dream Team. But go, Will. We appreciate you. And we appreciate our guest this time, Mr. Steve. Thank you so much, buddy,
very welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
for
Thank you,
being on our
guys.
podcast.
It's been wonderful
all
to
the way
talk.
from
That's great.
Newcastle upon Tyne by way of Baxley, Georgia.
Yes. Bye,
Steve
Baxley.
Morgan,
Take care.
he's right here with us. And we'll see y'all next time.
Bye, folks. Take care.
When the cold black water finds its way across through your veins, it just might seal your fate. It just might seal your fate. It just might seal your fate.